Merry Christmas, and soon to be Happy New Year. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about this morning, was going into the new year, how we can make it the best year ever. I don't know what everybody did for Christmas, but for me and for us, we went to a Christmas Eve service downtown. And one of the things they did was they read a prayer of confession. I figured, what better way to start this morning than a little confession to y'all. I love Hallmark Christmas movies. I do. They're so bad that they're good. All right, it's the classic love story of the big city businesswoman come meet small town boy. They fall in love, get married, and live happily ever after. So good, so bad, so unrealistic. But some might tell you it's the perfect love story. I know. There's been good love stories written over the years. I mean, look, you got Romeo and Juliet, the Titanic, The Bachelor, all just perfect examples of love stories. But I think if you were to ask Jesus, he might tell you a little different definition of love. I think he might tell you that the Bible is the perfect love story. And I think he's right. The Bible is the perfect story. It's a story of redemption. It's a story of hope. It's the story of miracles. But most of all, it's the story of love. And in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul gives us one of the best definitions of love ever written. Hear now what he wrote. If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor, and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror, then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Well, I think most of us have heard this passage in weddings as kind of a definition of love between two people. I don't think most of us have sat down and really dissected this definition of love, or really listened to it. One of the things I find interesting about it is Paul's use of words. And I think English has kind of let us down. It only has one definition, it only has one word for love, which is love. And I think often that kind of gets contorted for the romantic sense of love. But if you look at the Greek, Paul uses a distinct type of love. Paul uses agape. Now, for all my non-Greek scholars out there, this is not only the only words I know. It's one of my favorite words. And agape is one of the three types of Greek love. Now, Greek love, there's eros, which is your romantic love. And kind of a step above that is philia, and that's your brotherly love. And finally, the love that Paul uses is agape, your heavenly love. Your love that reflects God's love for us. It's a love that has no borders, a love that has no end. It's a love that doesn't care what you look like, or what you do, or where you came from, or who you voted for. No, this love, this agape love, reflects God's love for us. And that's exactly what Paul calls us to do. Paul calls us to reflect God's love. Now, reflecting God's love isn't something that's easy. No. In fact, Paul tells us that this is a hard thing to do. Paul tells us that we're going to struggle. Paul actually tells us that we have nothing if we don't have love. We don't have faith. We don't have hope. We have nothing if we don't have love. Which begs the question, what area of love can you improve in? You know, Paul tells us that love is patient and love is kind, that it doesn't envy, it doesn't boast. But what area do you need to improve on? And I think it's different for all of us. It's not an easy question, and I think it's a question that gets even harder in our current pandemic. You can't hug somebody from 6 feet away. But what you can do is think about what's in your heart and think about what areas of love you should improve in yourself. And I think no other time have we experienced that you have nothing if you don't have love than right now. I think a lot of us have felt isolated, have felt alone during this pandemic, and I think a lot of that stems from a lack of love in our world. It's hard. It's hard to have faith when you look on the news and you see rising numbers of COVID cases. It's hard to have hope when you look on the TV and you see nasty political ads run every day. And it's hard to have love from a distance, but it's something that we have to do. It's something that we must do. You see, the Bible is a story of love winning. It's a story of God winning. And I think for us, and I think for our world, and our community, and our nation, and our families, I think that we have to love. Because in order to win, we have to love. Love has the power to revolutionize our lives. I believe it has the power to come into our communities and change us. And I think Jesus would believe the same thing. After all, he calls for us to love our neighbors as ourselves. So what's holding you back from loving your neighbor as yourself? What's holding you back from loving the person sitting next to you as you love yourself? What way, in a pandemic, it's hard to show love. What ways are you going to show love to the people around you? For the sake of our world and our nation and our community and our families, we have to win. We have to love. Because I believe with love, 2021 has the potential to be the best year ever. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us come together today and learn about your love for us, God. 2020 has been a tough year, God, but I believe that with love, 2021 will be the best year ever, God. Just let us take time this week to think about Paul's definition of love that you gave us, and think about how we can improve and how we can love our neighbors as ourselves, God. Thank you so much for this beautiful day and your beautiful words. It's in your name we pray. All God's people said, amen. Amen.